Today we're going to explore what some have said is another major turn in the evolution of TV advertising. Now, it's always funny when we do webinars like this because many of the media planners and strategists on the call will know a lot more about some of this stuff than we do. So with that in mind, if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the chat as we go, and we'll make time for them at the end of the session. Over the next 45 minutes or so, without preaching to the choir, although there may be a bit of that, we're going to cover three topics. We'll start with where UK audiences are watching, how they're watching, and why current distinctions between different viewing forms matter less than they once did. Second, we'll look at what is happening on the supply side and how media owners are monetizing audiences in the UK. And finally, we'll look at what that means for you and your clients and the challenges and opportunities ahead. And to help bring those topics to life, you'll hear from both Bastian and myself in the reverse order shown on this slide. So I'll go first. So before we get into growth opportunities for advertising, it's worth reminding ourselves why TV remains one of the most important advertising channels, always will be in whatever form it takes. The fact is that television is perhaps the only media channel capable of delivering both scale and prestige simultaneously. Unlike almost all digital environments, TV is often watched by households, families, and groups, which amplifies both reach and cultural impact. And, sports is notable as the largest aggregator or the last aggregator of live audiences. And the World Cup is notable as perhaps the world's biggest sporting event. But even still, the way we are all gathering around the TV over the next few weeks serves as a timely reminder of why TV is still the most celebrated and sought after advertising channel of choice. Bastian, did you see the England game last night?
Of course I did. Was really amazing. My tip was 3-2, so I didn't want the fourth goal to happen, but it was well deserved, guys.
Yeah, I'm not a betting man, but it was quite a spectacle.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the presentation. So, one of the most consequential drivers in TV advertising is how television is delivered to devices. The general consensus is that Internet Protocol will become the standard for the distribution of TV and video in the future, and that fiber and 5G network expansion will continue to handle video distribution at ever increasing resolution, leaving terrestrial and satellite distribution to provide complete coverage. So looking at this chart, this is from 2023. In 2023, the majority of UK households still received television through a combination of broadcast and IP infrastructure. But over time, we can see that fully IP delivered television becomes the dominant distribution method, while traditional broadcast only households continue to decline. We've seen the BBC repeatedly state that it is preparing for a transition to an online-only future by 2030. But perhaps more relevant for this presentation is that ITV recently announced plans to make all of its inventory, both live, linear, and streaming, available through its Planet V buying platform. And that would not be possible without a common delivery infrastructure shared by linear and streaming properties. So with that in mind, one of the defining shifts of the last decade has been this mass migration of audiences away from linear broadcast channels and into streaming platforms. And it's generally agreed that a defining period for this shift was the COVID lockdowns. This was a period when everyone was watching a lot of television. My parents and my grandparents began learning how to use connected TV devices. Notably, we also saw Apple TV and Disney Plus launched in the UK in 2020. ITVX and Paramount Plus followed in 2022, and Netflix launched its ad-supported tier the same year. The other wider context for this period is that the consumer research industry recorded really a more positive consumer sentiment towards the value exchange that comes from advertising in this context. And that was driven by a difficult economic period following the pandemic and one that still endures to this day. The final point here in setting the scene is that we also saw a significant push towards bundling during this period, with Sky, Netflix, and Amazon Prime launching a European coalition in 2020 and really setting the groundwork for the package they offer now, which is an even bigger bundle of content. So, what I'm saying is that I believe that some combination of these events has brought us to where we are today. And what we have now is more media owners than ever competing for eyeballs and advertising budgets in the UK. One consequence of the growth in streaming viewership is that linear television is no longer able to deliver the same volume of audiences it did just 6 years ago. This chart from Barb tracks impacts delivered by the UK's largest commercial broadcasters. As you can see, by 2025, ITV and Channel 4 are each delivering roughly two-thirds of the adult impacts they delivered in 2020. While Sky is kind of slightly ahead, but following the same overall trajectory. Um, Although, having said that, it's also important to note that despite massive audience migration, linear television still accounts for the majority of commercial viewing in the UK. Now, anecdotally, that feels counterintuitive because we are all watching a lot less linear television these days. But the reason is that a significant proportion of streaming still occurs in ad-free environments. And even when advertising is present, streaming platforms typically run much lighter ad loads than traditional broadcast television. So just to paint a pitch here, a linear broadcaster might show well over 12 minutes of advertising per hour, whereas many ad-supported streaming services operate closer to 5 to 8 minutes per hour. So what is the result? The result is that while linear television now represents a much smaller share of total viewing than it once did, it continues to punch above its weight in terms of advertising opportunities because there's more commercial inventory per each hour of viewing. Um, so the next slide. Um, Having said that, it's clear that attention has fragmented, right? Across both linear and streaming properties, the BBC still reaches more than three-quarters of UK adults every month, while ITV continues to reach more than two-thirds. What has changed, as I just mentioned, is they are no longer competing exclusively with one another for attention. Netflix now reaches a similar proportion of the population. YouTube reportedly reaches more than 75% of UK adults per month. Prime Video, Disney Plus, and Paramount Plus all capture audience viewing at significant scale. Now, if there's one theme running through everything we've discussed so far, it's this massive audience fragmentation, with audiences spending time across more platforms and viewing environments than ever. And without a cross-platform view, those exposures can appear as separate audiences rather than one audience moving between platforms. And that's why unified activation and measurement has been such an important topic in the industry for so long. And ultimately, the goal is a unified view of reach, frequency, and outcomes across all forms of television and video. So, speaking of measurement across screens, it's obvious that mobile is by far the most established and frequently used device in our everyday lives. However, when it comes to long-form video consumption, audiences are consistently demonstrating a preference for the best available screen. And what this data shows is that while mobile usage remains constant throughout the day, connected TV becomes increasingly dominant as audiences settle in at home and begin consuming long-form content. Um, it's also clear that television is not an isolated screen within the viewing experience. Around half of UK viewers report paying equal or greater attention to their phone while watching TV. And more than half of European consumers report searching online for products they have seen advertised while watching television. And yes, you could say that cross-device behavior has been standard for the last 10 years or more. And I think that is true since the internet and smartphones have been ubiquitous in our lives for so long. But what has changed is that the media and advertising industry is now able to connect cross-screen behaviors to audience identity. And that creates a new paradigm in which media buyers are able to consider TV as a channel that moves them beyond brand building to performance and direct response strategies. So, if we step back, there are three takeaways from everything we've discussed so far. The first one is that audiences increasingly move fluidly between platforms, devices, and viewing environments, and that is pretty obvious. Now, understanding behavior today requires a holistic view of audiences rather than a platform by platform perspective. And that's why there is such a push for omni-channel measurement within the TV space, or cross-platform measurement rather. Second, many of the distinctions that the industry has historically used to describe television are becoming less meaningful. As television distribution and advertising move onto IP networks, the lines between live and on-demand viewing, broadcasters and streamers, and subscription and advertising supported services are beginning to blur. And in that sense, the industry may eventually become less concerned with acronyms and more inclined to simply call it all TV. And that leads to the third takeaway, which is that broadcasters, streamers, video sharing platforms, and technology companies are all competing for the same audiences, the same viewing time, and the same advertising budgets. And the question for the next section is how media owners are responding in a increasingly competitive environment. So one of the biggest structural changes that we've seen over the last decade has been the pursuit of vertical integration. Disney is perhaps the clearest example of this strategy in action. Over the last decade, Disney has spent billions of dollars acquiring some of the world's most valuable entertainment franchises. These acquisitions gave Disney the critical mass required to successfully launch Disney Plus, and build a direct consumer ecosystem around its content. So today, the vast majority of the content Disney produces is sold to services that it owns rather than being licensed to third parties. The reason for that is very simple. Direct consumer relationships are incredibly valuable and they are more valuable across multiple platforms. The more audience touch points the company owns, the greater its ability to connect audience data across services, and that creates powerful opportunities for audience segmentation, targeting, etc. Two recent news stories kind of illustrate this trend. This week, Fox Corporation announced its acquisition of Roku, which will give Fox control of one of the leading smart TV operating systems in the United States. And in the UK, reports suggest that Sky is exploring an acquisition of ITV, which would see Comcast acquire both the ITVX streaming platform and the TV marketplace platform Planet V. Um, so, looking at the monetization model, for much of the last decade, streaming growth was driven by subscriber acquisition, but that growth story has been changing for some time now. In the UK, the proportion of households subscribing to at least one streaming service has remained broadly flat since 2021. At the same time, ad-supported plans continue to gain traction, with penetration growing from 34% to 41% between 2024 and 2025. So as a result, media owners are increasingly looking beyond subscription revenue and they're experimenting with new ways to monetize content libraries. One example of that is the growing syndication of streaming originals and third-party content IP. So Amazon recently licensed the first season of Fallout to Samsung TV Plus, where the series generated a significant audience uplift. In the past few weeks, my girlfriend and I we've also been watching BBC's Planet Earth and Warner Bros. Seinfeld on Samsung TV Plus. And what this signals is that original content that was once held onto very tightly by media owners is increasingly being distributed across other platforms, often as newer platforms want to attract audiences in the UK market. The other point here is that broadcasters are evolving too. Rather than relying solely on their own and operated platforms, some are embracing third-party distribution channels such as YouTube. Channel 4 is perhaps the most advanced example of this strategy. Mm. 24 Hours in Police Custody, which I think is their best show, now exists simultaneously across linear broadcasts, the 4OD streaming platform, and YouTube. And the common theme here is that media owners are becoming more flexible about distribution, which increasingly opens the door to buying premium content with built-in audiences at lower rates on third-party platforms. The other thing to mention here is this is also part of the reason we're seeing more demand for IP level or show level segmentation and targeting in this space. Okay, so every streaming platform in the UK except Apple TV is now focused on building its advertising business. Um, Netflix ad tier now represents the single largest source of commercial VOD viewing in the UK, while Amazon Prime has also emerged as a major advertising platform. Together, Netflix and Amazon Prime account for almost 40% of commercially addressable VOD viewing time, which makes sense because Netflix and Amazon are the only platforms that have successfully been able to mitigate against subscriber churn over a 6-month period when accessed outside of a wider bundle. Um, Another important shift that is worth mentioning is the emergence of CTV operating systems as content and advertising businesses. Historically, these are companies that generated most of their revenue through licensing deals. But what we're seeing now is they are creating entirely new advertising opportunities through native placements such as CTV home screen and also owned streaming services such as LG Channels and Samsung TV Plus. And as a result, operating systems have become a third path to TV audiences, and buyers are increasingly looking at these environments. So, the ultimate implication of all these changes is that television and advertising has evolved. Ad-supported viewing is the new standard. First-party content is opening up in new places. New placements are appearing on CTV home screens. But at the same time, advertisers increasingly expect these opportunities to be booked, measured, and optimized with the same operational standards they use elsewhere in digital media. And as a result, programmatic CTV is forecast to remain the fastest growing digital advertising channel in the UK through 2027. Today, buyers can access CTV inventory in three ways. The first is direct sales with media owners. The second is through addressable TV platforms such as Sky's AdSmart and ITV's Planet V. These environments provide audience-based buying against reserved inventory. And as we've already discussed, are starting to combine both linear and streaming inventory together. The third is through programmatic platforms where inventory is made available through private marketplaces and real-time auctions and can be bought alongside other video formats, video channels. So in the UK, we're seeing more inventory become programmatically available, and that is largely due to the preference of media buyers and the representative audience agencies. Now, Netflix has expanded programmatic access with Google's DV360 and Amazon's DSP. Channel 4 and Sky have opened their inventory to DV360 and the Trade Desk, respectively. And by necessity, media owners are making CTV inventory more accessible and more interoperable because that is how media buyers want to transact in this market. Oh, okay, that was supposed to play. Um, so it's clear that the industry's long-term ambition is this idea of total TV, and that is all TV-like inventory, including the likes of YouTube, managed across a handful of preferred platforms that allow media planners and buyers to optimize impressions across a network of media owners. The challenge is that although the buying process may be more unified, net new inventory, data, and measurement solutions remain fragmented and are maturing at different speeds. And with that in mind, I will hand it over to my colleague Bastian, who's going to take it from here.
Thank you very much, Harry. Will you hand over the
Yes, I'm
remote
doing that
access so I don't
now.
have to say next chart, please, all the time?
You
Thank you
now
so
have it.
much. Perfect. Well then, so yeah, we learned now a lot, and we heard that yeah, it's a fragmented ecosystem, this CTV thing. And actually, I'm going to make it more complex now for you guys because we're going to talk more about this fragmentation. inventory is expanding. As already mentioned on one of the charts before, 6 new ad formats have been introduced in the past plus 1 year. These being like home screen placements, as mentioned, but also pause ads, overlays, and other kinds of expansions of for in-stream. And this means, so inventory wise, lots of things are happening. It's expanding. We have more access to cool formats, but the access remains quite fragmented. As we can see here in the number, 92% of advanced CTV formats are sold via direct deals. This is a number for 2024. But back, so only 2 years ago, it was 92%. Now, of course, some aggregations have been made. Some things have been made more easy for planners to buy. But basically, the big wish was that, hey, TV and digital come together. So it should open up new opportunities, but also get somehow easier. But this is also super hard to provide for all the manufacturers, providers, and publishers, considering that there are different ones. They don't work with each other. They sell different devices. You see the Samsungs, the LGs, which have own devices, but also the operating systems like Vida, which now just recently changed their name to vHome, TiVo, Amazon Fire Stick, Roku, etc. They all have different different operating systems, but also different interfaces and different interests, and they build their whole system completely different. So they're also accessible through different tools. And of course, some have been aggregated, but they have different creative specifications, which makes it then for you as independent agencies quite hard work to run a campaign across all of these publishers. So I think it's important especially also for us as Teads to help you to unlock all this inventory and make it possible to advertise on all the screens and all the formats with respect towards your corporate identity, your corporate design. So in-stream, of course, it's quite clear it's a full screen advertisement, but you might have a video and you want to make sure that it runs well. So this is where it's important that somebody can come in and support you guys with providing a unified layout for everything. So, because also if this all can be orchestrated well, this can also be a huge opportunity. So let's have another look at the home screens. So the home screens that we see here are the ones from Google, Vida, TiVo, but also YouTube CTV app. Let's not forget about the apps, because I mean, you might access your TV through the home screen. You especially access your apps that you do not have on your remote, because you have some apps in your remote which you might be able to access directly. So you want to go to Netflix, but maybe if you want to go to HBO Max, which is not yet on many remotes, then you have to go through the home screen. But also interesting is the home screen of an app. So if you open up an app, and YouTube, as we already heard, and as we can see here, has a massive reach within UK. And in there, we also have a welcoming screen. So you see these appearances are different, especially the Google one on top left is super native, which actually is good thing. It uses the font of the operating system. It has a little logo integrated. The station is always on the right. It auto plays after 2 seconds. But the other ones, as we see them for TiVo, but also Vida, or now YouTube here as an example, they have more like must-have-ish fonts. So for buyers, this can create an operational complexity. Accessing home screen inventory at scale means navigating multiple supply paths and different technical requirements. And this inventory here, so this is all outside of the street. So this is before somebody actually really leans back. This is the moment when we might have turned on the TV. We're still super attentive because we are selecting the content that we want to watch. We are not yet laid back. So advertising within this space is something super, super powerful due to attention, as said, and also due to the fact that this is an intimate space. I think most of us, at least 68%, according to the charts we saw before, are using these tools, these streaming services on a regular basis. So we see on the screen what we used to watch. Do you want to continue watch what you watched yesterday? Do you want to discover watching something new? So this is really an intimate space, which for many is like a reward moment when they turn on the TV in the evening after work. So, but as shown, lots of different appearances here. So what we want to provide you, and this is why we also have our Teads studio team, which is already with us for about 10 years and is I think over 150 people across the world working only for design, making sure that if you reach out to us, that we will make sure that these ads appear perfectly for the channel or for the device you're actually advertising on. So what you see here on the right side, within 3 working days, we received the assets and made sure that the appearance of this single campaign looks perfect on every single manufacturer. And this is always important for your brands, that you have a consistent message and consistent appearance, and people actually recognize the brand that you're advertising from. So we try to aggregate this and not make it for you even harder and having to send more and more assets, because the fragmentation is simply a fact, especially here in home screen. And the video should also have played. So fragmentation isn't just limited to inventory. It's also challenged when it comes to audience, from an audience perspective. So one of the promises or one of the wishes, as said before, would be that bringing together linear and digitally, so bringing this total TV, will actually make everything easier. But the fact is that not every bit stream includes all the data that we actually want. So 60% of programmatic available impressions within UK do not have all the usable data. So all the signals that we actually need. Signals could be, well, time of the day is quite clear, which channel as well, but which show is it? Which language is the show being broadcasted in? But this could also go down to levels like which actor actually appears in this show. But we can also flip it. I mean, 40% at least have this information, but not all of them. But so why is that? So the problem there is definitely that it comes from different angles, from different corners. So we have now, I mean, Harry said that we should maybe stop with all the acronyms at some point, but now we still have to get through these 3. Yeah, I hope you all know them already, but I'm still gonna repeat them. So we have the SVODs, this being the subscription video on demand. These are being the Disneys and Netflixes of the world. They have billing, household level billing relationship. So I mean, this is actually quite interesting already. They know who's the account holder. But I think we all know also that many of us might be using a mutual account together. So if I watch TV in the evening, so at the moment I'm watching the old Blacklist shows with my wife on Netflix, we always watch it on her account. So, but this is also something we should keep in mind. CTV is always living with co-viewing. TV is always having co-viewing. TV is a very social thing. We like to be in front of the TV with our loved ones, with friends, with colleagues, and of course also with another device, with our mobiles. So SVODs have a certain amount of information they can deliver, but they also, as we also know, they sell that themselves. BVODs, this is a broadcasters. I like to call them the dinosaurs because they have been around already in the linear TV world. They tend to only give access if you log in. So they have login viewing environments, also strong household identity signals. Also here you will have some co-viewing happening, but co-viewing is not a bad thing. Just saying that there's always a fact that there might be multiple people watching, might also be different generations, different interests at the same time in front of the TV. And then you have FAST. This is free ad-supported streaming television, which rarely authenticates users. The thing is, so if you log on to a system or an app like Pluto, Rakuten, whatever LG channels, usually on the start screen it says you do also stream now, pay never. Oh, great claim. But then it also says you are willing to share your viewing data with 250 partners across the world, Teads being one of those. So you see, coming from different angles or different corners, they also have different signals that they provide to us. And this makes it, of course, a bit difficult in terms of just bitstream for in-stream advertisement. Does not mean that one an ad delivered on fast is worth less than one on BVOD. There are some fast providers which send us quite a lot of information within their bit stream. So what do we do in order to enrich these signals and to actually deliver even better campaigns and better outcomes for you guys? And this is by unlocking all the audiences, because at Teads, we also know, and we do not only know what people watch at the CTV. Teads comes actually from another corner. We were the inventors of in-read advertisement, meaning that we know what people actually read. So we have partnerships with many newspapers all over the UK, but also all over the globe, giving us access within the UK to 94% of the online population and their reading habits. Of course, on a device level and also everything hashed. But we have data about their demographics, we have data about their interests, and also about their intents. And we also know if they have a CTV, a connected TV at home. So what we built is our household graph. So basically by building our household graph, what do we do? So our approach starts with the cross-device audience intelligence gathered across all the open internet usage. So meaning by the articles they read, using all those signals to build audience profiles. So somebody is considered interested in a topic if they read about, let's say, Football World Cup 3 times more than everybody else. At the moment, one might think that everybody actually reads about the Football World Cup, and today definitely everybody will read about the 4-2 win yesterday. But who's actually really interested in football? So it's the ones that read 3 times more than the average UK user. So this could be somebody who has the interest. So we then connect these audience profiles to households and to create a richer understanding who is likely to be present within the home. So this actually gives us the possibility to link reading habits or reading profiles to viewing profiles or to devices within the household, because we know, this smartphone likes to read about this topic, and we can mirror all this data within the household. And this actually is really something that unlocks for us new possibilities. And also, especially when it comes to omni-channel activations, you can reach with one audience that you define, your persona that you have described. You can activate it across all channels. And I think this is really one of the most powerful tools that we built in the past years, and which can also be leveraged easily by our Teads Ad Manager. Next chart. So this is actually, as I mentioned, the power to connect to every screen in the household. So it helps for the omnichannel activation, but more important, you can start to have actually a frequency control across different devices. And this is something that has been so challenging in the past years. And you can also have a unified reporting. But having a frequency control can maybe already a bit give you a hint what kind of possibilities it will also open up for us, or especially for you guys. The impact is opaque. So we know consumers move seamlessly between television and digital environments, and that TV contributes to lower funnel outcomes. We know it, but measuring it is so hard, and it often remains siloed across the different channels. So we see, okay, we delivered that much here, and we reached that much there, but was it really due to that? Or was maybe the newsletter I've sent out also one of the reasons? Or was it maybe my Google campaign that I also ran? So once again, there's friction in the market and between the connected way people consume media and the fragmented way campaigns are measured. So, and hey, almost half of people in the UK, as marketers in the UK, say, I would increase investment if I could actually track the ROI. So of course, we are working on solutions when it comes to this one. One way to think about this, what's happening is a transfer of expectations. So traditional TV builds its reputation of standardization. Buyers expect trusted currencies, independent verification, and consistent measurement frameworks. Digital media, on the other hand, introduced a different set of expectations. So buyers became accustomed to real-time reporting, audience-based activation, optimizing the campaign during the flights. And as television and CTV becomes more connected, the expectations begin to converge. So buyers don't want TV measurement on one side and digital measurement on the other side. So you want a unified understanding of what audiences you reach, what audiences you as in planning phase, but also in the post-campaign reporting, and see who did I actually reach. So we are, with our household graph, we are able to insert multiple data sources as linear TV data. But in order to make in-depth analysis, we do not just rely on our own tools. We team up with the best study providers, being it the Counters of this world, but also with Audience Project. Audience Project being very strong when it comes to analyzing the overlap of reach of different campaigns. In this specific case here, we made a project, an in-stream campaign with E.ON, and as you can see, 17% of the reach, and one might think by the size of Amazon and YouTube that Teads would not be able to give so much additional incremental netto reach to a campaign, but we actually are, and this is in the end, then when you look on a price ratio, 2.6 times more efficient. So it's super important really to always orchestrate everything well, and also to measure everything. And we are now really working on building these connections for making for you easier to get all this important data. And now, look, I already built the path to this a little bit by telling you that we are able to link information from a mobile to a connected TV or within the household via the router, via the IP address of the household. So basically what we can do is also have performance campaigns, so lower funnel campaigns running on the big screen, being it on the home screen, the placement that we saw, the mastheads, but also via in-stream is possible. So what we basically do is we attribute the website visits and even more, so even purchases, to somebody that has been exposed on a specific campaign. And we even optimize towards these outcomes. Sorry, so it's a little laggy. So how does performance work? I told you about our household graph and how we link the signals to a specific household. By knowing that we can transfer an audience, a targeting from one device, so by having reading habits and expose them on the big screen, we also know if somebody has been exposed to a certain ad. So this could have been in the open web by InRead, but since today we have a CTV deep dive. Imagine you see an ad tonight whilst you're watching some of your video on demand content. You see a pre-roll, but you might still be there and think like, should I visit this right now? You maybe not, because you just wanted to start to watch something. And then tomorrow morning, whilst commuting to work, or maybe you have a home office Friday, but maybe whilst going to the bakery around the corner, you remind yourself again about this specific spot and the service that was provided there, and you want to purchase this. You take your phone and you visit this website, and you spend some time there, or you even buy it. This can be tracked. Of course, one of the mandatory things here is that you have an installed pixel. But I think nowadays most of the big vendors have installed pixels, so you might have your Meta and your Google Pixel, and I would also highly recommend to install your Teads Pixel, just in order to then be able to track really if somebody that has been exposed actually converted. And I can tell you, we conducted quite a lot of tests in the past couple months. It was in a beta phase, and the success is crazy. So home screen, but also in-stream perform well. It's not a surprise to know that the big screen works, but it's great now to have this capability to really track this. Excuse me, clicked one too much, and maybe I clicked one too much again. So here you see the Citra campaign. I'm sorry, it's a bit lagging. So in this specific campaign, this was an in-stream campaign for Citra. I said we ran an in-stream activation, meaning that the completion rate of the video was rather high with 94%. We generated 30,000 visits from exposed households, and you can see that the session duration is quite solid. and online conversions were also high. But I want to point out especially what Mark Lynch, the marketing director, said. So historically, we've looked to the big screen for awareness and the small screen for activation or for action. This campaign with Teads shattered that divide. Driving over 5,000 qualified conversions directly from CTV proves that with the right creative and targeting, the living room is now a performance channel. There can be a QR code. We tested this. I'm just saying, if you use a QR code for one of these campaigns, then let it be a 30 seconds plus video, because people need time to take out their phones, even if there might be a screen, so using 2 screens at a time. It takes some time to scan a QR code, but just use it for branding, but use some urgency. If you run performance, use some urgency and some incentives. So say limited time offer, visit now, visit within this week, however, and give them some incentive and tell them why they actually should do this. All right. So the long-term vision for the industry is clear. Buyers increasingly want to plan, activate, and measure television as a unified channel, regardless of publisher or format. While that vision is compelling, the reality is that even as CTV inventory and investments consolidates within preferred buying platforms, challenges persist across the ecosystem. And so why Teads? Why should you work with us? So our best answer is in a single product, but a proposition designed to close the gap we just discussed. So first, we enable buyers to access CTV home screen at a meaningful scale through one single activation. And we have the tool with the biggest reach within the home screen environment. So for brands looking to build a broader reach, that booking can be extended to premium in-stream video, for instance. CTV In-Stream Premier is our product, bringing together the best streaming services in one package. Because you should not just going and book one single contact there, one single contact there, one single contact there. It's way easier to have just one face that you have to talk to, that can a single point of contact for all difference. Secondly, we can help connect exposure across both CTV home screen and in-stream to lower funnel outcomes, as just mentioned with CTV Performance. Because individually, these packages and solutions address specific challenges related to new formats or lower funnel outcomes. But the real differentiation comes when they're all bought together. And the activation for this is seamless. We have the Teads Ad Manager, which is free of cost, but you actually have to pay is when you use this tool, is of course. So we are happy to, in case you're interested in using this tool, to set up an MSA for you guys. Within this tool, it's super easy, I can tell you, because I mean, most of our employees, so even within finance, they had to make a training and to set up a campaign. And the average time to set up a campaign with 2 line items is under 10 minutes. Well, of course, you can also spend 3 hours within this tool and set up something super granular and only advertise towards the butchering Gloucester around the corner, only to iPhone 15s. Everything is basically possible. But also, you can also go down to zip code level with CTV targeting. So, hey, this is CTV for home screen and in-stream is hyper local. So the butchering Gloucester can also advertise on your big screen. But as mentioned, so this Teads Ad Manager, and I mean, I could talk 45 minutes just, or even more, just about the Teads Ad Manager, but it can bring you insights for your planning. You can analyze what people actually watch or read in the past 12 months within UK. You can type in keywords and just see what they are actually reading to get a bit of a momentum, a barometer momentum. You can use it for planning. As I said, super easy. You can activate your campaigns yourself. We, of course, give a last glimpse at the campaign and make sure that you set up everything that also basically makes sense, not that you're spending and wasting money. You can optimize during the campaigns. You have real-time dashboards giving you access to all the media that I just showed you. And in the end, you can also get all the measurement data that you want. So this is really a super powerful thing. And I yeah, as you see, I'm quite of a fan of this too. So unlocking the new viewing experience. We have 20 million addressable CTV home screen placements. We have 50 million addressable CTV in-stream devices. And as I mentioned also before, also for our open internet, 94% of the UK online population is reachable by the placements that we have within the text content. It's not on user-generated content. So for brands looking to extend beyond connected TV, we can apply the same approach across our broader omnichannel platform. And I think this is it for the moment. Thank you so much. I have not checked yet if you guys had some questions, but we still got about 10 minutes. So happy to answer some questions in case you got some. Hey, Harry, welcome back.
Hey, man.